this is Simon from Lightrider, and this tutorial is going to be on mastering Lightrider. So as we saw in the Getting Started tutorial, we've got our moves over here on the left, and we've got our colour effects over here on the right. If you haven't seen the Getting Started tutorial, I'd recommend trying that out first and just get used to the basics of Lightrider, because in this tutorial I'm going to start talking about the more in-depth features. So we're going to start on the right here with the colours. I'm going to show you each effect in turn. So we start here with the rainbow, which changes the colour of the lights. Then we've got the disco, which jumps between different colours. We've got the carousel here, which kind of jumps between two colours at a time. We've got the sparkle effect, one of my favourites. We've got the stop effect, which spreads the colours throughout the lights. Then we've got a symmetrical effect going outwards, and a symmetrical effect going inwards. And then finally, the Lightrider. Now you can actually change the colours of the effects, so if you have a look down here in the bottom right, we've got blue, magenta, red, yellow, green and cyan. So if I tap the colour wheel here, we can actually move these points around. You can drag them outside the wheel to delete them. So here I've just got pink and blue. And as you see, the rainbow is just changing between pink and blue. Now you may have noticed that the scanners in the centre here are still white, and that's because they don't have colour mixing. They actually have a fixed colour wheel. So what we have are fixed colour segments around the colour wheel here. So if I select green, these lights are going to go white and green. And if you have a look at the bottom here, you'll see the white and green fixed segments. If I go blue, they'll turn blue, and then pink. So we've got white, green, blue and pink. Now, because these colours don't mix, you can't use them in the effects, so these will always be fixed colours. I can tap them again to switch them off. We can also change the pattern of the segments. So right now I've got 2 in white and 2 in pink. If I tap this pattern button here, it's going to change the pattern, so now it goes pink, white, pink, white. If I tap the pattern button again, it's going to go white, white, pink, pink. So this button here just tells you how the colours are spread across the lights. Next I'm going to show you these properties in the centre. We did touch upon these in the Getting Started tutorial. I'm just going to put these scanners back to white so they don't confuse us. Okay, so first we've got fade. So as you see, the colours are fading between each other at the moment. If I take the fade off here, you see the colours are now jumping. I can also speed this effect up a little bit. So if we tap the speed button, we can bring the fade back in. Then down here we've got the shift. This will add a slight delay to the effect on each light. So it will just shift the effect. So if I just add a little bit, we can see the colours are starting to shift. And the more shift that we add here, the more of a delay we get here. And then if we put it right to the top, you end up with a kind of random effect. I'm just going to add another colour in here so it's a little bit clearer. Going to add a green colour. Can take it off a little bit. Some of the properties are disabled if they're not available for the effect. So for example, we've got a size property here which is not available. If we go over to the Lightrider effect, we can demonstrate the size. So at maximum we've got a big effect, and then if we turn the size down, you can see the little rider gets smaller and smaller. So here it's just one little pixel, and as we increase it gets bigger and bigger. So the properties work slightly differently depending on the selected effect. So if we go to sparkle, for example, we can move the fade. We can have a very sharp effect, and if we add the fade, we have a very smooth effect. We can change the size of the sparkle too. Then on the carousel effect, you see it's kind of jumping at the moment, but as soon as I add some fade, it all goes very smooth. Or if I just have half fade, it kind of fades a bit and then jumps a bit. If I increase the size, so the best thing to do is just play about with these properties until you get something which looks nice. Now we're going to go over to the left side here with the move effects. So similar kind of thing. I'll go through the effects again. So this is the center effect, which just places the lights in the center. I can tap fan here. I can make a fan. This center button here allows you to change the center point of the effect. So you can move the effect up and down, left and right. You can also use the gyro if you've got an iPad by tapping here. And then you can actually move the tablet to change the position of the lights. If you want to reset, you can just tap this button here. Next we've got the random effect, which randomly moves the beams around the room. We've got the sweep effect, which kind of sweeps the beams like a brush. We've got the circle effect. Shift always looks good on the circle effect, so as we add a little bit of shift, you kind of have that wave effect. Tilt effect. Again, if I change the fan, it's going to spread the beams out. And then it's going to put the beams in close. Changing the size. If the size is small, the effect's just going to move a little bit. But if the size is big, the lights are going to tilt all the way from the minimum value to the maximum value. And then you can change the speed to speed up the effect and slow down the effect. You've got the pan effect. As you can see, we've got a lot of shift on the pan effect because the lights are moving independently of each other. And then if we take this shift off, the lights will start to move together. If we apply just a little bit of the shift, we get a nice wave effect. We've got my favourite, which is swim, because it kind of looks like a swimmer. If we just speed it up a little bit. Increase the size. Now he's swimming very strongly. Or we can have a very small size. He's just paddling there. Okay, the float effect. This is the rubber ducky. We can make the sea rougher. Now we're in a storm. Or we can make it very smooth. So they're the move effects. Along the bottom here, we've got the presets, which again we touched on in the Getting Started tutorial. So we can tap a preset here to recall it, or we can touch and hold to store our own preset. I could call it my preset. We have up to 50 presets, which we can access by scrolling along here. We've got the flash buttons at the top, which we've already explained in the Getting Started tutorial. So you can touch and hold a button, or if you slide away from the button, it'll light up orange, and that will latch the button until you tap it again, and then it will revert back to doing what it was doing before. Down here we've got the special effects. These are beam effects. So if we start with the iris here, let's just stop the other effects so we can see what's going on. So the iris effect will increase and decrease the iris of the beam. I don't actually have an iris on these beams. And if you had a zoom, it would make the beam bigger and smaller. And you can just touch the dial and rotate around it. On the bottom left here, we've got gobo. So we can select a gobo, for example, gobo 1. If we want this gobo to rotate, again, I can touch the button and rotate around it to speed up the gobo rotation and slow down the rotation, or stop it completely. Then we've got the prism. So if your light has a prism, it will apply the prism when you tap it. And just like Gobo, if you touch this little blue marker and rotate it around, it will start to spin the prism. So it's very easy to apply special effects. And then obviously you can store these in your presets. So I'm going to add this to my preset. There we go. You may have seen this little pink button up here. So this allows you to do audio triggering. So by default, you'll see a little picture of a clock. What I'm going to do is just reset these effects. Okay. So I'm going to demonstrate this with the color effect. If I put this on a disco effect, by default it just works with the time. So as I increase, it speeds up, and as I decrease it, it slows down. If I tap this little clock, it turns into a metronome, and this allows me to tap a BPM. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and the lights will change to the BPM of which I've tapped. This is great for live shows, or if you just need something which synchronizes very quickly. Once this is enabled, if I go back to speed, instead of a dial, I've now got different segments. So if I tap 2, it will change every 2 beats. If I tap 4, it will change every 4 beats. If I tap half, it will change twice. So it's very quick to have a nice synchronized effect. By the way, if you ever want to exit out of this wheel quickly, you can just tap in the center and it jumps back to here. It's also possible to synchronize with Ableton Link. So if you've got any kind of DJ or music software or apps which can synchronize with the BPM, check out the Ableton Link tutorial on how to synchronize Ableton Link with your lights. The other way to synchronize, instead of with a consistent BPM, is with your microphone. So if I tap this button again, it turns into a microphone. And this will actually use the microphone of your tablet, which you can see the level of up here. And it will synchronize your lights with the music this way. It'll also use the line in if you've got a line in input. So if I just clap now, you see each time I clap, the lights change color. And you may have noticed that the move effects has a little clock symbol here. So you can control the colors and the moves independently. So for example, I could have the moves working off the clock, whilst the colors are working off the microphone. So that's the audio synchronization. A few other options on the live screen. We've got the strobe on the left here, which flashes the lights, and you can slow this down with a fader here. Over here we've got the master dimmer to turn all the lights off. If I tap this button, which is called subs, it'll show a dimmer for each different type of fixture. So I can take off the X-Bricks, or I can take off the scanners, just have the moving heads, bring in the X-Bricks again, and bring back in the scanners. But sometimes you need a little bit more control, like individual control of a particular light. For example, imagine if you wanted the scanner over here to be pointing in a specific place. Let's say on the wedding cake, for example. If I go into the menu here and select fixtures, I can select this scanner. We can see the pan and tilt faders here. If I tap the fader will freeze and turn blue. And you can see this beam here is now frozen in place. I can move the fader. So maybe I want it pointing on the ceiling up here. It's kind of just pointing on the left there in the corner of the room. Then maybe we want to select this scanner, number 4. And perhaps we want this scanner over here, pointing on the wall on the right. And then finally, maybe we want these center scanners. over on the left, and this one over on the right here. So now the scanners are all in specific fixed positions and the moving heads are still following the original effect. If I want to reset the light, return it back to automatic mode, I just need to tap these little reset buttons up here. Same for fixture 5. Any edited lights will show a little blob to the left, so we can see that a manual edit's been made. You can also save these manual edits and presets as well, so if we go back to live, if I touch and hold my preset, hit save, this manual edit has now been saved in the preset. If I trigger another preset, let's say preset 6, the lights now go back to automatic mode. If we go back to the save preset, the lights are back to their fixed positions. So that's pretty much all the features of the app. I'm just going to show you a couple of final features, which are the settings. So if I go back into the main menu here, we can go over to settings. And there are a few options here. So the first one is auto mood mode, and you've got BPM and pulse. So when you trigger the auto mood, the whole show's triggered automatically. So as soon as you touch a button, it will go back to manual control mode. So some people prefer to use the BPM for the auto mode, and some people prefer to use the pulse. Rotary dials. So you've probably seen this in a lot of apps before. Sometimes when you control a dial, you have to move in a rotary fashion. Sometimes you have to actually touch the dial and move up and down to change it. So you can choose your preferred method here. Here we've got lock fixtures screen. This will stop you accessing the options in the fixtures screen. So if we go to fixtures, I'm not able to add a new device. I'm not able to change the order of the device. And I'm also not able to change the address of a device. This is great if you've got an install and you don't want people playing about with the fixtures, adding new fixtures, accidentally deleting fixtures. So if you ever have to give your tablet to someone else to control, it's always a good idea to go into settings and just tap that lock fixtures screen option for a little bit of extra security. The final options are Wi-Fi, and this is a specific feature for American DJ lights. Wi-Fi is a system which allows you to control American DJ lights wirelessly, and if you've got a compatible American DJ interface connected, you can enable the Wi-Fi over here and select the wireless channel here and control your lights completely wirelessly. So there we have all the main features of the Light Rider app. The best way to get used to it is to just play about with it with some lights, but if you do have any questions, drop us a message and we'll do everything we can to help.